Well, I sometimes say, half jokingly to people, that any governor who comes here fails within the first week, because especially one with a sort of military past that you can read about, and you know, people read my biography and said, oh yeah, you know, Iraq, Afghanistan, he's coming to sort out the incursions. So of course I'd only been here 72 hours before I'd failed in that respect. I mean, I say that in a slightly joking way, but I mean, of course we are all concerned about the incursions, particularly concerned about recent ones that seem to have become more aggressive, and so has it bedeviled my time? No, I mean, the incursions have been going on for 50 years. That doesn't excuse any of them, but they have been going on for 50 years. We have become a lot more aware of them recently because of social media and people watching and people with high-powered binoculars and cameras and so on. So we're more aware of them. None of this excuses them. It's all inexcusable. It's extraordinarily difficult to know what to do about them. That I constantly say to people that I talk to in Gibraltar, you know, can somebody give me a potential solution to this problem that's better than the problem itself? And it's very difficult to know what to do.
Do you think that stationing a larger Navy vessel here might help, if for nothing else, to deter?
I'm already on record several times, so I have no problem in saying that I think a larger, more capable Royal Naval craft would be good, because of the message it sends. Nothing to do with its pushing, shoving, or anything like that. We don't want to do any of that, of course. I think one with better sea-keeping capabilities that could remain at sea for longer and that could perhaps launch ribs would be good. There is a resource issue and there's a priority issue, of course, and others make that decision. One thing I would say that has improved, I think, quite markedly recently and is yet to improve further is the coordination between the different agencies that operate on the water. So the Royal Navy, the GDP, the police, the customs.
But sadly not with the Spanish authorities, because despite the recent statement that they cooperate, we are seeing very aggressive behaviour from the Spanish authorities, aren't we?
I still would like to think and hope that the statements made by politicians in Madrid were made in good faith. Now, I have to say that there have been a couple of incidents since that placed doubt, at the very least, placed doubt in our minds. But what really worries me about those incidents is that I suspect that the politicians did make those undertakings in good faith, but that they haven't got full control locally of their own law enforcement agencies. And in some ways I find that even more concerning than the activities than the actual activities, because if a state has not got control of its own forces and their up to and including lethal force, whether that happens to be weapons or using the boat itself in a potentially dangerous or even lethal way, then that really is a concern.
And do you think that that's what's happening?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to come to another conclusion at the moment. I mean, I hope it's not true, but I don't believe that politicians in Madrid, at the level in which they were engaged, which was, you know, the two prime ministers' offices, I don't believe they come up with undertakings that are meaningless.
But this, of course, happened just before the visit of Prime Minister Cameron to Madrid, so a cynic might say that it was precisely in order to smooth the passage of that meeting and his visit, the Prime Minister's visit.
I mean, that's a possibility. I wonder if they're that joined up. I don't think we are, actually. So maybe they're not either. Maybe, that's a possibility, yes, certainly. But, you know, I still maintain, and I know, and of course I've seen the government press release last night, and I fully understand it. So what did UK do about the recent one? Well, I mean, it was helpful that in fact the Minister for Europe and his opposite number from Spain were actually in the same conference in Cambridge in UK at the time. So when the initial report, when we said in our initial response that there'd been ministerial involvement, this was face-to-face ministerial involvement within hours of the incident. And that is quite significant. That must have an effect. The real way to resolve this, and there is work going on at the right level for this, is to get those two organisations to talk to each other. I would like to see a situation where the crews or the coxswain or whoever is in charge of that SVA boat is talking to his opposite number. So there is some sort of personal relationship, because that's the best way to achieve success here, so that we don't have more dangerous incidents. And I know that the RGP and I know that the customs here are involved in that activity.
Okay, going back on public opinion in Gibraltar with the incursions, you know that people are rather fed up with what they see as a mantra now that the Foreign Office puts out whenever there's been an incursion, that these incursions are not a violation of sovereignty, but they're not a challenge to it, and so on. And usually the line has come from them. There was one occasion, though, I think in August, when you issued a statement, the governor says, was that perhaps symptomatic of a sense of frustration that you wanted to be able to say more than the Foreign Office says?
Well, I mean, believe me, the Foreign Office is equally frustrated by only being able to put out what we now call that mantra, because we get back to the business of, you know, can anybody think of another solution to the problem that places in a situation that's better than the problem? And so we have to put, I mean, that has to be put, because it is true, and the best legal advice tells us that is true. And always has done, and is regularly tested. I think the incident you're talking about, when I put out a statement, was the one in off the beach.
That's right, on Sandy Bay.
When I saw the video, I mean that the reason I put out a statement there with the full knowledge and agreement of London. I mean, I put it out anyway, but it did have their full knowledge and agreement. Was because that was just so dangerous and so obviously. A massive overreaction to any potential threat or situation, that, I mean, it was truly, when I first saw the video, actually, I mean, I was horrified, because I saw things in the water that I thought were heads of swimmers. In fact, it was buoys, but even so, there were swimmers around there. There were people who do training for triathlon and things there, who you barely see in the water and in their wetsuits anyway. So that was truly irresponsible behaviour and needed some sort of reaction.